Okay, let's talk about Age of Sigmar. Now, I've promised a sober second thought kind of video for a little while. I had probably the worst miniature wargame experience of my life playing my first game of Age of Sigmar, and I don't know, it feels like it was not that long ago. It was probably about a month ago when I played Lang, a co-host of Jaded Gamercast, just to try the game out. The thing is, Lang and Nathan both, Nathan, my husband, host Jaded Gamercast, and they were very, very, I don't know, I wouldn't say serious, but they were dedicated fantasy players. So Age of Sigmar to them was not something they were really happy about. I, on the other hand, never was into fantasy. I was not into it for a number of reasons. I'm not sure if I made a video on it. If I haven't, I will probably make a video about why I don't play fantasy in the future. Squarebase is not me. But ultimately, the experience was not fun because of the fact that Lang and I did not come to the table in the same spirit. And I think that's part of the kind of adjustment for Age of Sigmar is I came in looking to try a new game. Lang came in looking to prove how he could break the game. And he did. He broke the game, and it was very unfun for the two of us, as a matter of fact. And I look at it, when I went afterwards, I wanted to see what the beauty of the game was. Lang was the best man at my wedding. The manager of my local games workshop happened to be one of the groomsmen at my wedding, so I went over to the games workshop and I said, hey, show me what makes this game fantastic. And he played me through it. The mechanics were basic, whatever. What do you expect from rules that can take up 4 pages? But at the same time, I had him explain to me how this balancing thing works and how ultimately it's just a negotiation between two players. And I can appreciate that. I can appreciate that social contract. I think that that's always something that's really nice to have in miniature war games. Usually people who go to tournaments and events, they have the same kind of mindset. Social players, on the other hand, it can be very different, but I think that this game is geared towards those club players and people who kind of coalesce around a certain culture of gaming. So people who meet every Wednesday at their local gaming shop, etc., etc. And that's great. That's great for people who just want to play the game, to play a game. I feel like it undermines the game's accessibility from a universal standpoint. One of the things I always loved about the miniature war games I played was that no matter where I went, I could take that game, I could take my army, and I could play a game with someone. I feel like Age of Sigmar kind of turns that on its head. It really does dispose of the universality of the game. Everything... There are ways to balance a game. All of the ways. There's so many comp systems that are already coming out now to try to adjust for this. And I don't know if it's going to happen yet. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know where it's going to lead, essentially. I don't know where it's going to lead. In terms of my opinion about the game, I wasn't a fantasy fan before. I freaking love the models now. I want to put 40k backpacks on them, but I'm still more excited about 30k, so I'm waiting for Horus Heresy plastics to come out, to be perfectly honest. Games Workshop is just not as interesting to me as it used to be, but I'm going to have to admit that with the new Tau stuff coming out again, it's enough for me to hear the call, the siren call of 40k, because I love the Tau so very, very much. And it's actually what got me into 40k and blogging and vlogging about miniature wargaming not that long ago. So it could be the thing that gets me back in. I don't know. But I do know that right now, what I feel like Age of Sigmar is kind of like a brand new console with a couple, and that's ultimately it, a couple day one games. We don't know what this thing is capable of yet. We don't know what kind of games this thing can support. But what you do have is a console with just a couple day one games, actual content that's made for it, and then all of this backwards compatible stuff that you used to have before, so your old library is still good. You can just port it on over. I don't know if that's good enough for me yet. I don't know if I've seen enough of this game to really hook me. And I think that's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for something to hook me, and I don't know if Games Workshop has it in them yet. So yeah, that's what it is. Age of Sigmar, not for me, not yet. Maybe never, but I'm not saying never. But yeah, it's kind of like fantasy. It's still fantasy for me. I'm not convinced, not interested. And also because there's other stuff that I'm super excited about. So yeah, the playing experience wasn't great for me. I can see how it can be beautiful. I can see how it can be interesting. I think there's something bigger about Age of Sigmar that is interesting, but also really, I don't know. I feel like games that don't have restrictions are problematic. I like games with restrictions. I feel like a game that is well designed has a lot of restrictions. I feel like tournament organizers, that's why they put restrictions in. It's not only to ensure the game is interesting and balanced for all players and is good for competitive play, but it's also just to make sure that, like, you know, this game has structure. And I feel like Age of Sigmar doesn't have enough structure yet. And I'd be interested in seeing future iterations, but I don't know. It took fantasy like how many editions to get to the point where it was. It took 40k how many editions. I still love 4th and 5th edition 40k. It's probably my golden age of gaming. But it was very competitive and it was very strategic, but it was restricted as well. So yeah, I'm interested to see how this plays out. I'm also gonna say it. I hear a lot of whining. I hear a lot about, you know, people saying, "Oh, why do they kill fantasy, blah, blah, blah." You know what? If you are whining about the loss of your game, if you are whining about being a fantasy player who had your game destroyed, it's your freaking fault. You didn't buy stuff for it. So, you know what? I can't have sympathy for you. You got fired by Games Workshop as a customer. And Games Workshop is trying to find some new customers. I don't know. I think there's a bigger conversation to be had there. I've had that conversation with Adam of Tabletop Minions before about what I think was wrong about Games Workshop. I don't think that anything is any different now. I feel like Games Workshop has, I don't know, passed on responsibility of its game to its players. And it's treating Age of Sigmar kind of like the specialist games. It's kind of abandoned in terms of rule support and model support. I feel like Games Workshop now is just kind of offering model support and sort of giving out rules. So it's like, these are what sort of we can do so we can actually, you know, trademark these models and trademark this universe. But we're doing just enough to make the lawyers happy and not necessarily, I don't know, giving it an actual and true game to players. We're letting them figure out the restrictions. So, I don't know. I think the models are cool. I think that, I don't know. I wish that it was something that I could get into. Just because I like the models, I dig them, I think they're cool, but it's not enough. It's not enough of a game for me yet. And ultimately, I am a gamer. I don't know, I don't often paint things that I'm not going to play with. I don't do that sort of stuff, so things that I do paint, things I do spend time, my hobby time on, are stuff that I'm going to eventually play with. So that's kind of it. Let me know what you think of Age of Sigmar in the comments below. I'm interested to hear your opinions on it. And ultimately, if you're for or against it, if you were a fantasy player, especially if you're a fantasy player, I want to hear what you have to say about it, because I think they're really interesting. It's an interesting shift in the paradigm. Or if you're playing other games now because you've been abandoned by Games Workshop. Anyways, that's kind of my opinion. It's a quick raw vlog. I'm going to be doing more tutorials coming up pretty quick here. I've painted a whole bunch of fences for Wild West Exodus, and I'm going to start on my birdhouses. My husband and I are going shopping for a wood burning kit tomorrow. Yes! So hopefully I have all my fingers and I don't burn my house down. But no matter what, those tutorials, if they're not educational, they will certainly be entertaining. And hopefully you'll check them out. So anyways, thanks for watching. I will see you soon.